everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hello, welcome back to another live stream. If you are new to the channel, I am excited you're here. Make sure to subscribe down below if you love painting, if you want to see more of that. But yeah, I'm excited to paint. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna go over some supplies and then we will just get going on painting, okay? So the first thing that I'm gonna talk about is my Patreon and the traceable. Not only is it a way to support me, support the channel and the free classes that I have going on, but it's also a way to get free traceables, quick tip videos, and other fun content. I also have full-on tutorials over there as well, and yeah. Sorry, somebody opened my door, so give me 1 second. I think it was my child. My apologies. We actually have my family over right now. So usually my kids are like down at naps right now, but they're gonna leave in a couple hours, so they're still up with them. So I'm like distracted just a little bit. So I apologize for that. But yeah. So this is the traceable. It's at the $5 tier level, so it's the same as buying a coffee, or if you wanted to give a tip, you could do that way while also getting traceables for upcoming classes. So just feel free to check it out. It's linked down below, and I'll also leave a link up above after the class, okay? So that's this. I personally will not be using a traceable. For things like nature, I feel like, at least for me, I like to be a little bit more free in that aspect. But if you are like, I want to be told exactly where things are, and if you're one of those people and you like traceables and you like to have that direction, sorry, that's my child. Oh my gosh, how did you get in here? I will be right back. I apologize. Oh, you want to eat? Well, Dad's making breakfast, but Dad's making lunch.
But I want you to eat breakfast.
My apologies. My husband's making lunch and the kids got out of the room. Anyways, what was I talking about? I was talking about traceable. Yeah, it's totally an optional thing. It's an optional thing, especially for this class. But again, if you like to be told what to do and you like that sort of proportions and things like that, then it's in there. It's for you. It's in the chat, and I also pinned it. I pinned it in the chat as well, so that it's easy to find. Okay, so that's that. I will be teaching how to do it without the traceable. So if you usually use the traceable and you want to give it a go, this is a perfect class to do that. You can still join Patreon. You can still support that way, but we won't be using a traceable, at least I won't be using a traceable for this specific class. If you are using a traceable, if you are going to draw it on with a pencil, just make sure it's very light, because all of the colors that we're using in this class are very light and pastel, and any dark pencil will be harder to cover up. So just keep that in mind if you are using a traceable. But yeah, let's go ahead, go over the rest of it. I'm going to be using a 11 by 14 stretched canvas. So I have sides, tops, and bottoms, so don't forget to paint those if you have a stretched canvas. And it's 11 by 14. If you have a different size canvas that you want to use, that is totally fine. This type of painting would really look good on honestly any kind. You could do it this way. You could do a portrait, you could do a landscape, it could be a smaller canvas, a bigger canvas, you could do it on a round canvas, an odd shaped canvas. I honestly just think that this would be beautiful on any shape or size canvas. That being said, if you want to use a traceable and you are using a different size canvas, I have a 9 by 12 and 11 by 14 in my Patreon. But if you are a patron and you're like, hey, can you have it a different size? Just post on that, just comment on that post, and it's really easy for me to resize them and re-upload them to that post, and then other people will have that size too. So it's really easy for me to do that. So, and that goes for any traceable I have. So if you've had other classes where you're like, oh, but I want to do it on something bigger, but I want to use the traceable, that's an option too, okay? So that's the canvas. For the colors today we're using kind of a rainbow of colors, but you wouldn't think that. So we have let's start with the sky. The sky is going to be a mixture of our pink and potentially like our orange yellowish. So I have these. So I have like a magenta pink, an orange yellowish color, a yellow ochre, and then a medium yellow. And my colors, your colors do not have to be exactly like mine, okay? They can be a little bit different. It doesn't have to be exact. Use what you have. Don't go out and buy specifically what I use. It's okay. Use what you have. So those are colors kind of for the sky area. You wouldn't think that the sky has like yellow or orange in it, but it's not just pink and white. It's got that kind of warm pink in it. It's very subtle. And then for the ocean, I have my phthalo blue, and I also have a viridian green, which is a little bit of a kind of a blue green. And if you don't have a blue green, then you could get any other green and just mix it. You'll probably just have to mix a little bit, either less or more, depending on your green for that color, okay? And then for the bottom, sand is always a really interesting color when it comes to painting, because a lot of people will think that it's just brown, but the amount of yellows in this bottom is actually really, there's a lot in it. So we're going to be using not only our brown, our yellow, our white, but then also some of that orange to kind of bring some warmth to it. So I'm really excited just to get started. So those are all the paints other than black and white. You're going to have your black and white. Even if you don't think you'll use, like, I don't see any actual black in this, but sometimes we use black and white to gray out things and tone things down. So we might be adding what would be a gray to maybe the blue, and that is created by that black and white. So even though we don't really see any dark colors in here, I always have my black and white out just because I may need it to dull something down or to make it more realistic, okay? So those are the colors, and if you have any questions during the class, whether it's about the paint or something that we did, feel free to comment down below, leave me a question. That's why I do these lives. I love doing lives because I get to interact with you guys, and you get to ask questions on the spot, and then they get answered right away. It's not like this, phone tag thing. It's right here, it's live. And more often than not, somebody else might have the same question, and maybe they just, don't ask it. So it answers those questions for them as well. I have my water. I have 2 things of water. And then I also have paper towel, a flat palette. I have this little scraper thing to clean my palette. I also have a palette knife. Now, we're not really doing any palette knife work this time around, but I use this for pre-mixing my colors. I use it almost every single class, if not all my classes, and I find it just really helpful. If you're new and you're like, why would I use that and not just a brush? I use it for a couple reasons, and I've said this before, but not only do you save your brushes from twisting them around more, you save your water from getting dirty before you've even painted, because you have to rinse them out and then, you know, pre-mix the next color. But it's also, you can mix a lot more paint without wasting paint. And when you're mixing on the canvas sometimes, or when you're pre-mixing your colors, you are less likely to grab a color and then accidentally put that color on here, and it just, like, say I have a blue and I'm trying to mix it on here, it's a lot easier to pre-mix it, especially if you're a beginner. So we're gonna go ahead and pre-mix our colors today, and that way it's a lot easier to blend everything and make everything very smooth. So tip for beginners: pre-mix your colors. Make sure all the colors work well together, and then all you have to do is worry about painting. You don't have to worry about mixing as we're going, okay? I think that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, we have quite a larger class. A lot of times I'll only have 20-30 people, but we have almost 70 viewers. So again, if you have questions, make sure you ask them, okay? And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pre-mix our 3 colors. And when I say 3 colors, I mean our pink, our blue, and our tan. And what we're gonna do first is we're gonna do an undercoat. We're gonna do a wash. So it's just a very thin coat of putting it all on the canvas and creating just a base layer, so that when we go over with our second layer, not only is the color gonna be richer, but we won't have to worry about getting in all the grooves of our white canvas. Because a lot of times when we're only doing one coat, half the battle is trying to get all those textured little bits covered, and even then I end up walking away from the canvas and being like, I missed a pot, like I missed a piece, or I missed a spot. So we're gonna go ahead and do a wash, and if you've never done a wash before, welcome to class. We're gonna learn new things, and then we're gonna get into the rest of it, okay? I'm gonna do the announcements after we do the wash, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. You're gonna grab your pink and your white. You're gonna have a good amount of white, because even though there's a lot of color on this canvas, there's a lot of white. So get your white out, because all these colors are very, very pastel. So I'm just gonna do 3 chunks of white, and I'm going to do some yellow and pink. And I'm just gonna start with that. So I'm gonna pull this out a little bit. It's a little bit too far. I'm gonna move this so you can see it a little bit better. So I have this white. I'm gonna add just a little bit of pink, and you wanna add less than you think you will need. And this pink that I have, it's a very cool pink. And what I mean by cool, cool versus warm. So cool, it's on a little bit more of the purple side versus the yellow-orange side. So this is a very, I don't know, vibrant pink, and I'm gonna add just a little bit of yellow, and it's gonna make a little bit more of a, almost like the color I have, like a dusty rose color. And you'll see that I put a little bit, actually I don't know if you can see it because it's such a light color, but I can see that I put a little bit too much yellow in it. So, which is fine. I'm just gonna go out and grab some more pink. And because we're doing 2 coats of this, even though the first one's, you know, pretty, it's gonna be pretty watered down, I would much rather in this case have too much paint then not enough, because it's, especially for beginners, it's a lot harder to remix the same color of paint than just have a little bit of extra, and then, you know, you deal with that. So I'm going to do a little bit more pink. Okay, so this is a very, very pretty color. It is a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to add a little bit of white to that and then call it good. Because I know for the undercoating, it's going to be washed out anyways with the water. Alright, and I don't mind if my sky is a little bit more pink than what's in the picture. It's good to note that when we're painting on a white canvas, more often than not, our colors are going to be too dark, because going from no color, white, to a color is going to be a stark contrast. So unless it's like fairly close to white, it's going to be like, oh, that's really pink, even though on my palette it's like, it's pretty close to white, you know. Okay. Let's go ahead and do our blue real fast. Our blue-green. Actually, we can do, let's go ahead and do the wash of the bright color first. So I'm just going to grab some water on my brush. And it's about, I mean, it's pretty much thirds. And this is also a really great way to preview your color before you like slap all of the color on there, and then feel like it's too late to change it. So for me, even though this color is fairly close to what's in the picture, I know that it is a little, it feels like a little bit, it's too orange. So now I know, before I've wasted all that paint doing one coat, now I know that I'm just gonna add a little bit of pink to my mixture, so that when I do my like second coat of like my actual paint, it's gonna be closer to the color that I want it to. So I'm just doing really long strokes. And I'm just kind of, if you want a little bit more color, you can put that on. Alright, so now at least it's not white, right? Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse this out. And I'm going to create our blue. So I'm gonna get out a little bit of blue. It's actually honestly more green than it is blue. So I'm just gonna have a tiny bit of blue, especially your phthalo blue, because it's very dark. And again, if you don't have this viridian green, then just get out whatever green you have and you'll add that phthalo blue to it. Okay, so I have this white. I'm gonna add some green to it, and it's gonna be very minty, which is why you need that blue. I need to check the time of the class. I'm late even when I think I'm early. Oh no. That's okay, we just started. we're just pretty much mixing our colors and getting on that first coat. And then somebody else says, I'm happier using light colors in the beginning instead of dark like most people do these days. I find that it's a lot easier to darken things up than it is to lighten things up. So I typically will try to start with light colors first, especially for something like this where it would be very, very easy to do something too dark. Most of these colors, with the exception of the water, but even the water, they have so much white in them. It's very pastel, and that's kind of what drew me to this painting anyways, is because of those light colors. Like, you don't often see those light colors, and it drew my attention. Okay, so this needs a little bit more. I would say needs to be a little bit darker, but more than that, I think it needs to be grayed out. And that will also darken it. So I'm actually going to get out some black, and that will kind of help gray out the colors just a little bit while also darkening it just a tad bit. So I'm going to get just the tiniest bit of black. Don't do too much too quick, because you will ruin your lot of paint if you are not careful. Black takes a lot. Okay, this is a really pretty color, and I don't think it's exactly like the color, but I really like it. I think this is a little bit more green. If you've painted with me for any amount of time, you'll know that I really, really enjoy color matching. If you're not about that, if you like literally could care less about color matching, then just get whatever color that you like, whatever color makes you happy and that you would be happy with, and go for it. This is your painting as much as it is mine. Well, this one's mine and you have yours, right? I'm not telling you that it has to be a certain way. Like, I'm here to instruct you, inspire you, and teach you how to create something that's similar to this. But you're allowed to change your colors. You're allowed to not color match. I enjoy color matching because I'm like a slight perfectionist, and it's like, I don't know, I really like copying things like the way that they are. And it also, for me, I also like to do portraits. I don't do them very often, but I do like to do portraits of people. And when you're doing people, you really have to pay attention to the color that things really are versus the color that you think they are. So for me, it's a matter of practicing that even in my other classes. But if you want something like a different color, like go for it. No one is stopping you except yourself. So that being said, I'm still adding black, little bits of black here to kind of gray it out a little bit. And I think I need even more of a green. Alright, I think this is probably pretty close. But again, just like I thought the other one was close, it needed more pink. So I get to put this on here, just like I did the pink, in a very light washy color. And I get to kind of analyze it and see if it's the color that I want to move forward with. That's a really cool thing about doing these kind of pre-washes, is that you get to kind of preview the color on a white canvas before going all in. So I'm gonna grab some water. And I'm just going to go for this. I am going to try to make this as, I apologize, it's my daughter's nap time, very much so. Alright, so I'm just gonna put this on here. And I think this color is pretty darn close. And if you're really bad at straight lines, there's no shame. A lot of people are. Or maybe you have a hand thing that prevents you from being steady. That is no shame. That is totally fine. Use tape. It is not cheating. It is an artist tool that we use. Just like you would a traceable, it's not cheating. It's just another tool that we get to use as artists. Okay? Just use some tape. I will probably use tape once I get that second layer on there. And it's not because I necessarily need it, it's just because it's easy and I want to use it. And it's my painting. I'm all about enjoying the process. So if you're doing something and you're not really enjoying the process because you're not doing something that you think, you know, is cheating or whatever it is, just do it. Enjoy the process. And I'm just gonna kind of figure out, this is a really cool thing about using this, is you kind of get to draw this in before, but this is like actually one of my favorite things. With a wash like this, you get to play around so much with the paint because you're gonna be able to cover it up. But this is a way to kind of draw in like your waves or anything like that. And if you don't like it, you just cover it up, right? It's really great. It's actually very therapeutic, and I could probably just play with the paint for much longer than I should. But that being said, you can kind of create, let's see, like I want it here, I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna make it kind of wiggly, and then I'm going to have a white section, and then you can come in here with more paint, like maybe this is actually darker, as long as you know what the different lines mean. So I'm just going to go in with just my water. I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to go in with some white. Like some actual white. You can kind of start putting in the different elements. You can take it out, right? Alright, so this is my big one. That's my big wave. And then let's see. This whole section is white, so I'm just going to do that, and then there's like this section. I'm going to come in here with a little bit more paint. This is actually a really easy way to like draw something out while also getting in that first coat. Alright, so that's pretty good. That's like pretty close to what it is. Alright, so now we're going to make our brown, and what I'm going to do is, because I know that it's very, very close to this color, I'm just going to recreate that same color and then just add a little bit of brown to it. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit more white because I kind of used it. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, a little bit of pink, which kind of acts as like your orange. And then I'm going to do a little bit of brown. And just like your black, you want to make sure that you don't add too much at a time. So I'm just going to add just a little bit and see what this turns out to be. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit more pink and a little bit more brown. It's definitely on the yellow side. And if you're unsure, do the first coat with it, and then you can kind of gauge from there whether or not you're happy with that color. Because right now it looks very yellow, but I'm also comparing it to the pink that's over here, and I know that that looks pretty yellow on the canvas. So I don't know. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna put a coat of this on the ground. Or on the ground, on the sand, on the bottom of the canvas. I am gonna lighten up the bottom here with some white once everything's kind of said and done. And if you need help blending, if you want help blending these two right here, you can get into some white. Like you can get into some white and just kind of help that blend in. If you want to do that, you don't have to. I'm going to make it a little bit more dense with paint right here. Again, this is not how it's going to look. This is just the first coat. We're going to put a thicker coat on after this. So I'm coming in with some white. It's actually thickening it up quite nice. It's also lightening it up, which is great. And I'm going to do a coat of this on the bottom, just so I don't forget. It's your friendly reminder to paint the bottom of the canvas. It's very easy to forget, believe me. All right, I think that is a great first coat. So while y'all finish that first coat and get everything the way that you want it, I'm gonna go ahead and go over some announcements, some painting classes, things going on in Patreon, and then we'll go ahead and do our second coat, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is go over our class from last week. So our live class, I go live every Wednesday. So if this is your first time, maybe you don't know that I have classes every week. This is what we did last week. We did a beautiful butterfly with an orange flower and orange accents on the wings, and it was a lot of fun. So if you like butterflies, if you like florals, or if you like challenging yourself with detail, it was a lot of fun. And just like all my live classes, I do have a traceable if you're worried about that. And if you've become a patron in the last couple days for this class, you also have access to that traceable anyways. So Go paint that. It was a lot of fun. It's free on my channel. And yeah. And then in Patreon, we have a lot of fun things going on in Patreon right now. If you've painted with me before, you would have seen this guy. We did this at the beginning of the month. I do a exclusive painting tutorial for all of my $10 tier patrons. And yeah, it's just, I love doing all sorts of things. Typically I'll ask my patrons what they want to paint, and we've been doing a series of animals in kind of this abstract colorful style, and it's been a lot of fun. So we've done a elephant, a lion, and now a giraffe, and I think not next month but the month after we're going to be doing a rhino. And then one of my patrons wanted to do a bear, which I think would look amazing, so we're probably going to do that the next time. But if you're a patron and you have ideas of what you want to paint in that style, let me know, because I'm very much open to what you guys want to paint as supporters. And then lastly, if you've been painting with me with these classes and following along, I paint live with my patrons, my $20 tier patrons. I go live every week, and we've been working on this for 6 weeks. So we just finished our 6th class on this, and look at the detail. Look at how amazing. I dare say we're not done. I think we have one more session. It's really hard for me to look at this painting and not think, well, we did 4 sessions on the background, doing the background and all the coral and all the fish and all those details, and we've only done 2 sessions on the focal point, on the main thing of the painting. So I want to give it one more class of just putting in detail, heightening up the contrast of the underbelly and all the dark spots. I want to clean up some of these pieces, but I'm really excited. I think it looks fantastic. So if you want to join for this specific class, I already have 6 classes already available in my Patreon. You can join now and paint with us on, paint this week, and then you can paint the last one with us, or you can wait until the 1st and you can paint next month's class too, along with all of these classes. Whenever you join a tier, you always get access to every single other thing that's been posted for that tier and below. So my Cobalt patrons get access to not only the Cobalt tier material, but also the lower tiers like the Friday tutorials and the traceables. They get access to pretty much everything. So that's a really cool thing about Patreon, is that while supporting, you also get like a ton more for your $20 or your $10 or your $5. But yeah, okay. Hopefully everyone is at a point where they can do a second coat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my colors. So some of this is still a little bit wet for me. So I'm just going to continue to let that dry. And I'm going to add just a little bit more pink to my sky pink, because remember, mine was just a tad bit orange and I wanted just a little bit more pink. So I'm going to add my pink, mix that around, and then excuse me, and then as I'm looking at the blue of this, I want it a little bit more gray, so it's a little bit too vibrant. And while I do like the color, it's like my favorite color ever. Again, I really like to look at the colors for what they are and not what I think they are. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of black to this, just gray it out a little bit more. I think that's probably good. Okay, and let's see. For this color, I think it's a little bit, I honestly think it needs a little bit more pink and a tiny bit more brown. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that. Again, it's one of my favorite things to do with doing a undercoat like this, is that you really get to look at the colors and then like reassess them before you waste a bunch of paint. Because I feel like once you put that paint on there, you're kind of like committed, right? But doing it this way, you get to preview the paint before you commit to anything, which is really, really cool. And I don't know about you, but I would have never thought to put pink in tan in order to get it a tan color. You'll learn something new every day. I'm gonna add some white to this. Just with adding all the colors, it slowly darkens it up. So just adding that would be good. All right, so now that I've adjusted my colors, I think I would be happy. I'm happy with these colors, but now that I've adjusted them, I know I'm gonna be solid. Okay, one thing to note for the sky is that we will be doing a sun right here, okay? And we're gonna be, while it is still wet, that's the trick here. While it's still wet, we're gonna be taking that bright color and shifting it out and drawing out that light color while it's still wet. So it'll be really, really well integrated into the sky. It'll be it will be really subtle. And then once we do this ocean, we'll add a little bit that comes into the ocean after that, okay? So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with our second coat. I am excited to see how this comes out. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of water. I definitely want considerable less amount of water this time around. But the cool thing is that because we already did a round of pink, we don't have to worry really about it like bleeding through, like the white bleeding through, because we already covered up all the white. Okay, so right now I'm just focusing on the sides of the canvas because I can't really see it while it's over there. Alright, so I'm pretty much focusing on everything on the outside. And then as you get to the middle, you're just gonna add a little bit of white to your brush. And this is okay to kind of mix on the canvas, I think. Going across the whole thing, making sure it's all smooth. I am going to add a little bit more white to this center. Just this center section, and kind of just mix it out. Alright, now I'm going to get a smaller brush and I'm going to put in my sun. And while it's still wet, you're going to pull out that white. And with every white that you come out, you're going to be putting pink in the center. That's okay. Just focus on because you can always put more white in the center. Just gonna kind of pull it out. And you can see that I put pink in here. And I'm just gonna go back in with some white. Just reapply it to like just that center area. Alright. I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to go ahead and get some tape, trusty old tape. And I'm gonna go over, look, my line wasn't even straight, look at that. So I'm gonna go to the tallest, there we go, the tallest part of my ocean. And that's where I'm gonna place it, and just make sure that my line is as straight as I can make it. I'm gonna look at it straight just to make sure I'm not overcompensating for it being higher on one side. Alright, so that is straight. That's not too bad. Make sure that this is down. And if you don't have tape, that is totally fine too. You can just eyeball it. That's totally fine. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get my large brush, a little bit of water. So I'm taking the color I have and pretty much just adding white to it because I think it's a little bit darker than, I think it's more of like this color. But we'll add highlights and lowlights. Remember, this is just the second coat. It's not the detail coat, okay? So acrylic painting has many layers. Whenever you're doing a painting, even if it's a simple painting like this, there's still layers that have to be done. So I'm painting this back color a general color. General blue color, and then I'm going to come in with some darker color here. This line is mostly straight. I can tell that there's a little bit of lighter colors on the edges of this wave. So I can just start that by adding a little bit of white and just blending that in. I'm going to rinse out my brush, come in with just some plain white. And I'm intentionally making it not flat because you know what? Water isn't flat. It comes up and it splashes. And grab some more white. Alright, so I'm going to come back with this this gray-green, a little bit of white in it. Put another layer here. Just adding a little bit of color for the under bit. I'm gonna come in with some white. Go ahead and put in all of this. So now I'm going to figure out where this initial line is. Alright, so I'm just kind of putting in some white lines, but I'm not being specific. I'm going to come back over this when we start doing our detail to put in that specific, those specific lines and add a little bit of detail. Alright, so essentially the certain things that I'm looking for are like, where's the wave, where does it break, where does it start, and those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. Alright, so that's close enough. The rest of this is going to be with that kind of detail that we talked about. Let's do some more white, at least for me. I'm going to bring this white down a little bit. It's kind of I'm just going to blend that in. And I'm not going to take this tape off until I'm done with the actually I can take it off now. I was going to wait, but I think I can take it off now. It'll allow me to go back and fix any lines that might be a little bit too much or overpowered or whatever. Alright, for this portion of it, for this portion of like the sand, once I get down to this lower level, I'm just adding white to it. And there's different ways of blending it. If you have, let's say you're a beginner and you don't know how to, you don't know how to blend. Let's say I have my white down here. I'm going to add some white over here, right? I want it to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to add some white down here at the bottom, right? So I'm going to add white at the bottom. It's still wet, so it'll still blend pretty easily. But now you kind of have like this line, right? You have this line here. And you're like, how do I get rid of that? Okay, well, there's two options. You could just go over it, and over it, and over it, and over it again. Or you could bring it up, kind of a crisscross, and then crisscross it this way. And then you go all the way across it, slowly bring it up. Now for me, I want a little bit of color right here. So I'm just going to bring it in, and I'm okay with some of these lines. Like, I don't think it needs to be perfectly blended. I'm going to focus on the side here just for a minute because it does not match the rest of the painting. So at this point, I am gonna use my brush to fix any of the top section that maybe kind of, sometimes when you use tape, sometimes it can like kind of look bumpy. So I'm just smoothing that out, but the majority of my job is finished when it comes to a straight line, and I just have to make it smooth. It's a lot easier than starting fresh. And then I just continue those lines. Just kind of create a couple extra lines in here. And by doing that, we can kind of start creating what is the background, or what is that all the waves and stuff. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to take a small brush. I just realized I never went over brushes. Use whatever brushes you feel like using. I usually have a large brush, a couple round brushes, and a filbert. That's pretty much my go-tos. Apologize for not going over the brushes. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to start off with is a not stark white. So it's got a little bit of blue mixed in. And the waves that are closest to you are going to have more detail than the ones that are further away. And I'm just going back and forth. gonna go up about halfway, and then I'm actually gonna end up switching to a smaller brush. And don't cover up all of it. The little parts of darker, I'm actually leaving uncovered with my white. I'm not going over it, and that's gonna just help dictate where everything is. I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush so I can just get in a little bit of smaller detail near the back end of it all. What time will your next live be tomorrow? I don't have any lives tomorrow. My next live, I go live, at least for my free classes, I go live on Wednesdays. So my live classes are always the same time, same place, and they're on Wednesdays. Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But what's cool about all my classes is that they are, you can rewatch any of them. So even though they're live, and that's how I go live, you can always rewatch them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a break from the back end. I think that it's doing good, with the exception of I am gonna come back in and put in a couple darker areas. And these are just waves that are being shadowed. And if they're too dark, I just kind of rub them out. Makes it a little bit less harsh. All right. I'm going to see. I made a slightly darker version of this, but I don't know if I'm going to use it because it's kind of a different color. Nah. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get that same color that we used for the background. Put it over this wave. And what I'm going to do is the places that are dark, I'm just going to leave that color. And the places that have a little bit more light to them, I'm just going to grab some white and you can mix it in that way. So I'm just going to put it up here. There's a little bit more white over here. And you can just mix on the canvas. So I'm just going to mix this on the base here. And the reason you can do that is because you've already placed wet paint on the canvas. Alright. There you go. So it just adds a little bit of variance to it. We can come behind ourselves with a little bit of that kind of bluish white and add a little bit of white to the top of this. Maybe it's coming over the top just a little bit. There's that. Let's see. Alright, so just moving down the layers. Now we get to add some more layers to this white. And honestly, I think I'm done with the bottom. Like I'm pretty happy with the bottom, and even that that blend into the top part, I think looks great. So I'm just gonna add some white here. We're gonna do some detail to the waves, and then add in a little bit of this down below, and then we'll be all done. So I'm just using a small brush. I'm gonna really focus on just kind of adding variability in texture, in like shape, And feel free to add some texture to like your, like, sure, you could make it all flat, but you could also like dab it and create like volume to it if you want to do it that way. And I'm leaving a very small, almost blue line. And you can actually put this back in if you didn't keep it in. All right, so this one down here, all of it's kind of folding over. So I'm gonna get my brush wet and almost do a wash of white. And one thing about doing water is water reflects itself. So whenever you are doing waves and things like that, you want to remind yourself that all of this water down here is going to reflect the water above it. So you can have fun by adding reflections of itself. And that's a cool thing to add. And just to add a little bit of believability, I'm dabbing my brush to get a little bit more texture and like randomness in all of this. And then for the water, for all the little lines, I'm gonna water down my white just a little bit. And I'm going to use a little bit more of the blue white water, because it's a little bit more subtle. And we're just gonna add a couple lines here and there. Something that I like to tell my patrons is that particularly in like the longer classes that have more detail, is that detail takes time. So if you're not willing to put in the time, you're probably not going to have as much detail as you wish you did. So it's really important that if you do want detail, that you don't try to do it fast, or you don't try to skip out on taking the time to put it in. Because while you can get faster at doing detail, it still takes time. So because of the angle that we're seeing all this white, I'm just going back and forth at various angles with my white. And you're just going to keep adding detail until you get the look that you want. And I'm just making sure that the section, that the sand that's reflecting it is all white. Alright, now with my liner brush, I'm going to go ahead and with this darker blue, I'm going to darken this line in some of these areas. can also use this to darken the top of your waves. Kind of the parts that are really under there, you can kind of shade and shadow. Alright, so right now I'm just adding a little bit more texture to this front one. Alright. Alright, so with all of that done, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of white, re-put it into that center area, and I'm just going to brush down. I have a little bit of water on my brush, and so it's just kind of just make sure that you rinse your brush after every 3 or 4 strokes, because you will end up putting blue in your sky if you're not careful. Or just wait until your painting is for sure all the way done and dry. right, and that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm just going to do one last thing and just brighten up the back part of it ever so slightly. I have mostly water and white, and I'm just going to add some of this real subtly. All right, I think that's enough for me. Thank you so much for joining me. If you liked this class, please like the video and even consider sharing it or even copying the link as it tells the algorithm that you liked the video and you're sharing it, and so it pushes it out to more people. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and post my Facebook right now, not only my Facebook but my Facebook community. I am trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, so please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So below is my Facebook. That is where, like, I would say 95% of all my postings go. I post videos, I post calendar updates, I have like events and like future classes on there, so definitely go over there. That's where, again, that's where the majority of it is. That's kind of the hub of my social media, and then I just go live here on YouTube. So if you are if you're not over there on Facebook, make sure you go and subscribe over there. I'm gonna also post my Facebook community. If you painted with me, which I know a ton of you did, please go and post it over on my Facebook group. In about within the next 10 minutes, I will take a picture of mine, I will post it in there, and then you can just add yours to the album so that anyone else who wants to take the class can see everybody else's album. You'll just go into either albums and you'll just click the album you want to add to. You click add photo. You can do it that way, or when I post mine, just click the album name and then you can add it that way, okay? So I cannot wait to see all of your paintings. It's like one of my favorite things about classes, but because I'm not doing in-person classes anymore, I don't really get that unless you post it. I can't see your painting unless you post it. So please post it. It also encourages others to go take the class, because if you can do it, then they can do it. And that's encouraging to them as well. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week. Next week we're doing a really, really easy, simple watercolor like boho abstract art kind of class. It's going to be really simple. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you can change the colors, you can change the scale. I think I'm going to be changing the scale. I'm going to do it small, and then I'm going to see how I can do it big and just have fun with it. So I hope you will join me, especially if you've never done watercolor before. It'll be a lot of fun. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye guys.